You're listening to the Podcast Detroit Network. Visit www.podcastdetroit.com for more information.
Welcome to Smart Sex, Smart Love, where talking about sex goes beyond the taboos and talking about love goes beyond the honeymoon. I'm Dr. Joe Court. Thanks for tuning in.
Hello, and welcome back to Smart Sex, Smart Love. Thank you for joining me. And if this is your first time listening to my show, welcome. Today, I'm joined by sex coach and host of the Sex and podcast, Meagan Narvarez, and we'll be chatting about how to connect to our body's wants and needs in order to stay present during sex, whether solo or with partners or a partner. Meagan is a queer, Latinex, and U.S. citizen, currently living in Atlanta, Georgia, where she works as a therapeutic sex and relationship coach. Meagan helps clients explore their sexual and mental blocks so they can have fulfilling, orgasmic, thrilling, and gratifying sex. Sex is a skill, says Meagan, and most of us have many obstacles that prevent us from tapping into those skills. I want to help people take control of their sex lives. We'll be talking about how mindful sex can help you be satisfied in bed, and more importantly, love yourself more wholeheartedly. I can't say that. Wholeheartedly. Love it. Welcome, Meagan.
Thank you. Hello.
Hello. It's so good to have you here and so good to talk about sex positivity. And so much of what you want to talk about here is exactly what I want people to hear. So what would you like, as we start this podcast, overall, what would you like people to get out of this?
I want people to, get out of this that it is important to focus on yourself first before you can really branch out and explore with other people. And a lot of us do have, as you mentioned before, health challenges and other kinds of challenges that get in the way of that. And it's important to name them and honor and accept that those are there in order to then work through them.
That's a really good reminder. I always like the expression, and I don't know why there's not a book with this title, when they say on planes, put your mask on first before assisting others.
Right.
I love that, right? And so that's kind of what you're saying, is really focus more on yourself too.
Correct. Yeah. It is really important because I think a lot of us, we want amazing sex and we are stuck in our heads about what that looks like, what we look like, how we're functioning with other partners. But at the core of it is our self-esteem and our wellness and our health. And when we're able to focus on those and better those, then it's when that can be improved with other people.
Mm-hmm. I'm also thinking about when I was in sex therapy training, you learn you can't have an orgasm and at the same time thinking about your partner. Right. Orgasm demands complete self-focus, right?
Right. Mindful focus. Absolutely.
So talk about mindful focus. When you say mindful, that's such a buzzword in our field now, and a lot of laymen, people who aren't therapists, don't know what that means. So can you tell us what you mean by it?
What I mean by it is to be fully present in a way where thoughts and judgments are no longer in the picture, in your experience. And for people, especially those with vulvas, those who are women, we can take a little while to get there often if you are in a heterosexual relationship, for example, or in a gay relationship with two women as well. But usually the idea is that men can get to that point a little faster. So we need more time to tune into our bodies in order to experience pleasure. And I think we can get frustrated when that doesn't happen right away. But there are measures that you can do to help it to improve that so that you can get to a place where you're fully present, not thinking about, when am I going to get this orgasm? Is it going to happen for me? How do I look? Do I look awkward? Is my orgasm face going to be ugly? Or being worried about your body and how you're performing, being an observer of yourself and kind of set on what the experience looks like versus really just like feeling the touch and feeling the pleasure as it goes down your spine. And in order to do that, you have to notice when you are maybe in a judgment phase and try to pull yourself out of that and really focus on what your body is feeling and how you are feeling emotionally in the process.
I love everything you're saying. I know for women it's so hard. And I don't think I truly appreciated how hard it is for women until the Me Too movement started. And I started listening to women and talking about not just how men treat them, but how women treat themselves and each other, and the messages that women get about, your body, and the airbrushing on magazines. And I mean, that's got to be such a tall order to do what you're asking, is try, because you're fighting messages all the way from childhood, right?
Yeah, it's a lot of pressure, and it can put a lot of strain on ourselves to look and perform and feel a certain way, especially if you have, for example, an illness, whether it's physical illness, mental health illness, or even problems with addiction. It becomes a lot harder because all those things from what society tells us is wrong and not okay, and that you're not good enough or even broken. And it becomes harder to feel your body and accept what you are feeling when all of these pressures and judgments are in the way.
Do you think it's different for lesbian or queer women than for heterosexual women?
I think it's different, yes. And it really then still depends. I, for example, have a partner who is male, and he makes sure that he is attuned to these kinds of issues and is aware and mindful with me, mindful of how he's interacting with me. And if you are in a partner relationship with two vulva owners or two women, then sharing those similar experiences to communicate. But even then, the people in the relationship have to be able to communicate those things, because no one's experience is completely shared by another or others.
Right. So either way, communication is a priority. That's what I've been saying on every single show. And I'm
Absolutely.
glad you mentioned that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know people are going to get stuck on this. You said I'm a queer woman, but you're with a man. So can you tell people, they're going to be like, wait, what?
Sure. Yeah. So I identify as bisexual or pansexual, but I use the overarching term of queer. And I honestly sometimes do have a challenging experience with that identity, because on the outside we do look like a heterosexual couple, and especially with bi erasure in society and in culture, and even within the queer community, it makes it hard to reconcile that. But in the end, that doesn't erase the experiences I've had with other people and my desire for other women. And so I use the term queer to encompass all of that, but it is a little bit of a challenge in a relationship when other people are peeking in and wondering, like, you say you're queer, but you're dating a dude. So what's up with that?
I'm glad. I know the show's not about that, but I know people would get stuck on that, and I'm glad you did it, because I teach that all the time. I mean, I have people that would otherwise be identified as heterosexual, but they're even identifying as queer because they don't want to be limited or bound to any label.
Right.
They want right.
And my partner and I do communicate the idea of being an open relationship to make room for other people, whether that's a woman or a person who's non-binary, basically anyone that I'm attracted to and want to develop a relationship sexually or romantically, or even just as a hookup with. And I think that's important to talk about in conversations where maybe you see primarily two people in a relationship, but there might actually be more to it than that.
How do you help people with the idea that, because you just talked about being in an open relationship, or people that are in poly relationships, people who want to be, but have the judgment in their head of what they've learned. It's not okay. Something's wrong with you. You want too much, all the crap that people are out there. How do they mindfully get away from those kinds of judgments so they can free themselves?
Yeah, so that is a huge thing, because in our culture, being in a non-monogamous relationship can be seen as sinful or selfish, or that there's something wrong with the relationship. And I see it as not that there's something wrong or that there's something that needs to be fixed, but there is something that can be added, because one person can't fulfill all of your needs, not all the time. And so in order to fix that, at least in my own experiences and talking to other people, looking into other resources, for example, about open relationships and polyamory, for example, Kevin Patterson and Poly Role Models is an awesome example of that. People you can go to see what that looks like and see what resonates with you. and to have that conversation with your partner when it feels comfortable. And I do want to emphasize the comfortability piece, because let's say you and your partner are in a tense situation and you just all of a sudden throw in like, hey, what do you think about polyamory?
Right.
That might make things more uncomfortable, if not make the other person insecure or wonder, all kinds of negative things out of fear and jealousy and maybe questioning their own self-worth in the relationship. So I think it does have to be properly timed how you present it, but the possibility is there if you communicate about it.
Yeah, and I would imagine that's why I'm glad you brought up being open and how that could be in the way of somebody having mindful sex, because those kinds of judgments, the mononormativity of our culture makes people feel like, well, I should be that, but I'm not that. What are other things that might be, needed to use mindfulness for, like other messages people have that would get in the way?
Can you say that another way? Sorry.
Yeah. So so someone's trying to be mindful, like you're saying, and they have all these other judgments. What are some of the things people have told you? Like, this is in my way. You're asking me to be mindful, but I can't, because I'm stuck on this.
Right. Okay. So an important part of that is to at first take a moment and do some self-reflecting of what kinds of things can help you to stay in the moment from what you already know. I think a lot of people, when they try something new, they want to pull all kinds of new things into their life, and it could be too much to change at once. So it's important to start with already what environment, what already feels good, and find what is pleasurable for you, not even related to sex. Like, does a certain perfume make you feel good? And if that's already part of your routine, great. But then instead of just going into your bathroom and like putting some on and keep going, like take a moment to actually breathe that in and like remember that smell, because after a while we become on autopilot and everything we do is just a task to be done and we don't stop to really focus on it. And so you can bring that same idea into your sexual relationship. And again, to start from the basics of your own everyday life and bring things into yourself again, because this is starting with you first, to help you to focus and be attuned to your body. Is it a specific scent? Is it a certain outfit that you can wear throughout the day that makes you feel good? Or even lingerie underneath that helps you to feel sexy so you can walk a little taller throughout your day and feel confident about yourself? Do you have to maybe get yourself out of PJs? Because right now with COVID-19, it is very easy to be comfortable, but if being cozy and comfortable doesn't connect with feeling sensual and erotic, then do you have to maybe put on a different outfit for that day just so to help you to boost your confidence? Do you enjoy certain tastes? Do you enjoy certain feelings? I think a lot of us, as we're going around throughout our day, don't really notice the sensations around us. And it's important to spend a little time, even just a couple of seconds, focusing on those sensations. And over time, it becomes a practice. And with that practice, it helps you to focus then on sensations that are happening in your body during sex. So maybe when you're with your partner, especially after dating for X amount of years or months, and it's starting to feel routine and mundane, maybe that kiss on your neck doesn't feel the same as it did when you first started dating. And so you have to first observe those feelings again in your body without making any judgments about it.
This is helpful. I very helpful. And it's reminding me of things I've done naturally that I didn't even know I was doing as I've aged, right? I'm in my 50s now. And things that make me feel sexier or better about myself is working out. I started doing that in my late 40s, having a stronger body. I grew out my full beard, makes me feel sexier. I started wearing sport coats. I'm putting beard oil in. I'm starting to, and actually it's also probably because of the whole gender focus in the LGBTQIA community of using what's your pronoun. And I'm sort of embracing my he, his, him. I'm cisgender, but it's embracing my gender even more as an older guy has made me feel sexier. That's kind of what you're talking about, right?
Right. And as you say that, I was thinking of myself. For example, for body hair doesn't bother me. I can go months without shaving my legs, but I do notice that sometimes that also means I'm not really paying attention to my legs. And so when I finally start noticing just parts of my body that I'm not paying attention to and putting care into them, whether that's putting lotion on myself and making it a habit or a ritual to take care of my body by moisturizing my skin, or by putting on something sensual, like my partner gave me this aromatherapy incense that is basil scented, and it smells really good. And so I just put a little dab on my neck and just like walk around breathing that in. It makes me feel more confident, more erotic, because I know that he also enjoys the smell. That's why he bought it for me, because he loves the smell of basil. And so that helps me to feel a little bit more in my zone, which then helps me to build the confidence in myself again. And that does change over time, because I think we forget what feels good to us when we're so busy or stressed. As we age, things start to change. Maybe our bodies change in ways don't feel good, and we have to find ways to come to terms with that, and to do things that help us to remind ourselves that our bodies are actually wonderful, and they keep us going, and they keep us powerful, and to bring ourselves back to that even after we age, or let's say we have cancer and our bodies, after all the medication we're taking, are just making us feel not as good, not as strong, not as balanced. And so we need to do extra care for ourselves to get us back into feeling okay in our bodies.
I remember this is probably 10 years ago. I went into Brooks Brothers, which I never had gone into before, and I thought, God, I kind of like the clothes in here. How come I never liked them before? And then I realized that really they have, at least historically, catered to older guys, and I had to realize I'm an older guy now. I think that's why it's attractive to me, So I appreciate you saying that about age and even cancer and health. So what's a typical session with you? They hire you to be their coach, and you're going to teach them mindfulness. Like, what would be the typical things you would do in a session?
Sure. I would focus first on doing some self-reflective exercises of what is it that they want. Because I think that's a question that maybe catches people off guard, to say, like, well, what do you want in your sexual encounters? And it's sometimes hard to answer. And so to break that down and to really give yourself a chance to explore that, maybe do some research on possibilities. Lindsay Doe has a great YouTube video about the want, will, won't list of things that you want to do in bed, you will do, but maybe haven't done, or there's maybe some hesitation, but you're willing to give it a try. And then there's actual, like, I won't, hard stop, absolutely not, I will not do that. And to explore those kinds of lists and write things down, and to even remember and reflect on in the past. When we're first dating people, we are literally high. Our brain chemicals go crazy, and we are high on this relationship. Everything feels good and euphoric and amazing. And over time, that dims down. But if you think about what felt good in those first moments, or maybe even when you were younger, going back to times where you did feel more positive in your sexual encounters and experiences, and more confident in yourself, to pull from those memories to remind yourself of what feels good. And then also to take note by doing some self-exploration by yourself. Take time to masturbate, pay attention to the rhythms of that and how that feels. A lot of people with vulvas have, for example, a side of their clitoris that feels better than the other, and pay attention to those senses and get attuned to your body in that way. And then journal and reflect, and find then a space for you to communicate that with your partners if you are in a relationship. And so we would start with those foundations first. But then also to say, again, let's say you have health challenges. Maybe you're on mental health medications that affect your sex drive, or just makes your body feel groggy. To also take note of that, so that you can talk to your prescribers or talk to your medical providers to see, as a team, how other people in your life and in your care can help, so that you can get back to a better sense of feeling balanced.
One of the things I love about your coaching is that you also talk about solo sex, masturbation, autoerotic experiences. So much of sexuality is talked about in terms of partnership. What would you want people to hear about how you coach people in solo mindfulness during sex?
To take time to have sex for yourself. In partnered relationships, it can be easy to put a lot of expectations on the partner to know what feels good without even saying it. But with solo sex, that's a different experience. It's just you. The wonkiness and the awkward or discomfort of not really knowing how to communicate or connect, all that goes away because it's just you. And it's the most optimal time to feel pleasure because you know your body best, and you can explore all those things without having to find the words for how to communicate what feels good. So I think we do often get stuck on the wording or just like getting it off of our tongues, like what we need. Like we might know that viscerally, but saying it is a different situation. And so with solo sex, it's all you. You can put on the music you like. You can get into a position that feels good for you. It doesn't even have to be on the bed. A lot of us, maybe from growing up, we have sex very quickly with ourselves because we don't want to get caught. But you can do it on the couch, in the bathroom, in the car, in a safe place away from people outside, whatever feels good, and just really sit with your body to enjoy that and recognize that it's not just the relationship that can fulfill you, it's also yourself.
How do you work with people who have taboo about masturbation? I can just hear people listening to this going, oh my God, my religion, my culture, even many women in my office say, oh, I could never do that. Or, they, like men tend to, in my office anyways, and even amongst my friends, talk more openly and engage more in masturbation than women. How do you help women get past that?
To remind them that we do have an organ that is made purely for pleasure. And if it's from a religious sense, then to say that it was made for a reason so that you can feel that pleasure. And I think a lot of people with vulvas have hangups about maybe masturbation because we don't even know what our bodies look like, and we don't have a chance to see what other bodies look like. When, for example, people with penises from the beginning, they're accessing their penis by touching it when they have to use the bathroom. They see it all the time when they change. Maybe they go into the locker room and you can kind of glance at or see other kinds of bodies and penises. Vulvas are like such a mystery because we can't see them unless we either take a mirror to ourselves or we have our legs open for other people to see. But it makes it really hard to really understand that the down there, as people call it, is normal because we, for example, use very mysterious terms like down there or the coochie or whatever other wordings that people have because it's uncomfortable for a lot of people to even say the words vagina or vulva. And so when you release the mystery by, let's say, if it's comfortable looking at porn, although porn isn't always the best example because there is, for example, labiaplasty where there are surgeries and other ways to make the vulvas look different. There is feminist porn out there and other kinds of websites that you can go to that can have more of a diverse visuals for what vulvas look like. There's also books that you can see. There are Instagram accounts, for example, the Vulva Gallery, that you can look at to see the diversity of vulvas so that you don't have to feel like yours is such a mystery or ugly or disgusting, depending on how you're raised to think about it. And from there, you can get more comfortable with touching yourself, exploring, experimenting, and at the same time, reminding yourself over and over again that, your vulva, your clitoris is there and it's for you to access and enjoy, or else it wouldn't be there. Just like we have a tongue so we can taste and know how delicious a strawberry with chocolate on it is. Or for example, I'm Latin, so I love rice and beans. I love empanadas. Those are my favorite things to eat. And so I can get pleasure from really sitting and enjoying that. But my tongue is there for that reason, to enjoy, to feel that pleasure. My skin can sense so many things because it's there to sense that, so that when something is brushing on me that feels really good, my skin tingles. and I can continue to enjoy that for myself, because there's nothing shameful about skin, right? But your vulva is just an extension of that. Your clitoris is just an extension of that.
I wish, and at some point where maybe we'll do this live where people can see you, but I'm able to watch you on Zoom here while you're talking. You're so comfortable with yourself. You're talking about this so naturally. I think it must be so nice for people, men and women, whomever, or any gender or non-binary, sitting with you, watching you teach this. It's not just what you're saying, it's how you're saying it. You're so comfortable in your own skin. It's so obvious to me.
Thank you. I'm very passionate about sexuality. Even since I was a teenager, it's been an interest of mine. And also, then to mention too, for me, like, learning about sexuality increases my sex drive and my sexual energy. And one, because it's a passion of mine, but I think also just like getting in the mode of really like putting your mind into the idea of sex helps, which is why scheduling sex. Oops, I did not think that was going to buzz. Sorry.
It's okay.
What I was saying, go back. Which is why scheduling sex is so important, because it puts you in a mindset of preparing yourself mentally and emotionally, physically for sex.
Yeah, people have an allergic reaction to scheduling sex. And I always tell them, people schedule sex when they're having affairs. Let's go here. We'll be here this night and this day, and here's what we're going to do. And when you're in the beginning of a relationship, you're all ready for sex every day, every minute, right? But after that all goes away, you absolutely not only have to schedule sex with a partner, but schedule sexual time with yourself, right?
Right. Yeah. I think to be honest, when I first heard about scheduling sex for my own relationship, I don't know, that sounds pretty mundane. But when I really started to think about it and talk to other people about it, I realized that, like, yeah, scheduling sex makes sense. When we, for example, go on a date and we're putting on a special outfit, we've got ourselves shaved and ready to go, and we kind of have a sense of what's going to happen that night, that is still scheduling sex, even if it feels more spontaneous because it's a date and you don't actually know where things are going. When we are having sex, even in dating or hookup before being in a long-term relationship, that planning is still part of it. And that planning is then what goes into continuing a healthy, I don't want to say structured, a healthy and sorry, if you just cut out all of my awkward trying to figure out a word for that.
Just a positive sexual health experience, maybe, right?
Yeah, a positive sexual health experience that doesn't put so much expectation on it being spontaneous. Because when we're stressed out, it might be hard to be spontaneous. If we have kids, if we're living in, let's say, a circumstance where we're sharing our home, whether it's like having roommates or living with your parents, I think a lot of people, this conversation gets missed a lot. But for example, there are people who share bedrooms with their kids, and it becomes hard and discouraging to feel like, oh, I can't have a relationship with anyone because my kid is around all the time. I lived in Seattle, and there was a huge homeless crisis. There is a huge homeless crisis that is occurring, and many people can't afford homes that have one bedroom, let alone two. So being able to say, okay, I know my kid is going to be out of the house at this time, and I can plan for that. It makes it a lot easier to open up the possibilities instead of closing them off because scheduled sex doesn't sound as alluring.
Yes. All right. So how can people find you on the internet, or, if they want to work with you?
You can find me on meagannarvaez.com and on social media, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook as Sex Coach Meagan. You can also find me on my podcast, the Sex and Podcast, which you can go to meagannarvaez.com/podcasts to find those episodes.
Thank you so much, Meagan, for being on the show. And I'd like to thank everyone for listening. And don't forget to follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Dr. Joe Court. And please rate, review, and subscribe to my podcast. Until next week, see you next time.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Smart Sex, Smart Love. I'm Dr. Joe Court, and you can find me on joecourt.com. That's JoeKort.com. See you next time.